Alright guys, it's time for the branded Despia deck profile here. The deck is finally at full power with the release of the new pack Newborn Dragons, and as you can see the key cards are super expensive. You need 3 branded fusion, non-negotiable, ultra rare. You need the branded Lost. 1 copy is okay, but it's still an ultra rare. You don't need a Mercurier, but it's good to have. It's an ultra rare. The boss monster, Mirror Jade, ultra rare. You need 2, non-negotiable. The Lubellion, ultra rare. You need 2, non-negotiable. Other cards you need: Guardian Chimera, ultra rare. Albion, ultra rare. Caritas, you don't need it, but it's good to have. And Masquerade, the Toll Dragon, you don't need it, but it's good to have. With that out of the way, let's get into the card by card. Here, we have 2 Despian Tragedies. Its effect is when it's banished or sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can add 1 Despia monster from your deck to your hand. And when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to set 1 branded spell or trap. Pretty solid. 3 Max C, 3 Ash, pretty standard by now in all Master Duel decks. Just keep in mind that against Flunder, you might want to take out these Max Cs if you're finding yourself playing against a lot of Flunder players, as this card is completely dead in that matchup. 2 Edgem Chains, we're playing the Fright for Patchwork engine. So we play 2. Its effect is when it's sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you get to add 1 Fright for card from your deck to your hand, and that's always going to be Fright for Patchwork because that's the only one we have. 2 Albaz, you need this because this is the core of your deck. You can use it to special summon your Lubellion, your Albions, and that leads into the Mirror Jades. Its secondary effect is you can normal summon it or special summon it, discard a card, and fuse with another monster on the field. So you can fuse away your opponent's extra deck cards to go into Mirror Jade if you have a chance. 3 Aluber, the starter. You add 1 branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Mercurier is a hand trap that you can search off of the branded Lost. What it does is, as long as you control a fusion monster that lists Fallen of Albaz, you can use this card to negate any monster effect as a hand trap. 1 Dramaturge. If it's used as a fusion material, it gets to resurrect itself. And its other effect is when a monster from the extra deck is special summoned, you can negate 1 monster effect on the field. So it's actually a monster negation as well as a 3000 body. Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. We only play 1 because we use this to cycle through our cards and draw more. So if he's in your hand, you can send 1 branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard to draw a card. Ad Libitum is a combo piece. We use him just so we can reborn our Mirror Jade in the middle of combos and use his banishing effect again. We play 1 Harpy's Feather Duster because it's Master Duel and you don't know what you're going to face. 2 Polys, part of the Patchwork engine. 1 Foolish Burial to get us to our Despian Tragedy, which in turn gets us to our Aluber. 3 for Patchwork, a very good card to get you a +1, and it'll let you keep playing if you get ashed. 3 Branded Fusion, best card in the deck. Fuses from the deck, Fallen of Albaz, and whatever monster you want, gets us into our Lubellion, which gets us into our Mirror Jade, which gets us into our combos. Branded Lost is basically Magical Meltdown without the search on activation, so you play it, and your opponent can no longer respond to your fusion summons. They can still Ash or Branded Fusion, but they can't Solemn it anymore because effects to fusion summon cannot be negated. And if a fusion monster is special summoned, you get to add the Tri-Brigade Mercurier from the deck to the hand. We play 2 Call By and 1 Cross Out for the hand traps. This can take out Ashes, Maxis, whatever you want. 2 Droplets because every deck now has some crazy negate boards. 3 Branded Openings. This is our starter card. It gets us to our Aluber, which gets us to our Branded Fusion. And please keep in mind that this card is not a cost, so if this gets ashed, you don't have to discard a card. And 2 Branded in Red. You only want to play 2 because it's not a starter card, and you usually want to search this off of the Albion. What this does is it lets you target a Despia monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand, and then perform a fusion summon. But guess what? It's a quick play spell, which means you can fuse during your opponent's turn, which means Guardian Chimera plays and some other shenanigans. So for our extra deck, I have the Mud Dragon of the Swamp and the Starving Venom. These are our Super Poly targets. As you can see here, Super Poly. I don't have Super Polys. If I did, I would play the 2 Super Polys. You don't need it, but they're really good in the mirror match and in some particular matchups. A lot of players like leaving DPE and Verte on the field. You can punish them with this and get rid of both those monsters, and the DPE won't resurrect itself. But I don't have them. But if you do, Mud Dragon of the Swamp, Starving Venom, Drago Stapelia, in some combos you can summon him. He's a quick effect monster negation, very good. Brigand the Glory Dragon, you can send him off the Mirror Jade to search your Tri-Brigade Mercurier. It's a fusion monster that has an effect once it's sent to the graveyard. Albion is very important. Albion lets you search for any branded spell or trap and set it to your field or add it to your hand. And he is always sent off of the Mirror Jade. Caritas and Masquerade, you know what these guys do, I would assume, if you're looking at this deck profile. Caritas basically turns everybody to 0 who's not a fusion monster. Masquerade makes your opponent pay 600 to do any action. 2 Mirror Jades, this is your boss monster. It's a quick effect banish, it's very good. Quick effect banish, and you're usually always sending an Albion, so you get a follow-up for the next turn. And if he leaves the field by your opponent, you get to blow up their field at the end phase. So he's a very, very good card, very sticky. 2 Lubellions, very good card to get you to your Mirror Jade. 2 Guardian Chimeras, this card is amazing. You make it on your opponent's turn, you're usually popping 1 to 2 cards, and you're drawing 1 to 2 cards. And then if you combo it with the Ad Libitum, you get your Mirror Jade back, and that's a monster banish. So you draw 1 or 2 cards, pop 1 or 2 cards, and you have the quick effect non-targeting banish from Mirror Jade. And the Despian Proskinian probably won't come up too often, but I'm sure it does in the mirror match. If you have Super Poly, you can probably make this pretty easily, but I don't. So this is the deck profile. There's some spice too I can show you guys before we go on to the combos. Branded in is it High Spirits? Yeah, branded in High. So with Branded in High Spirits, what you can do is it states reveal 1 monster in your hand and send 1 level 8 fusion monster from your deck to the graveyard with the same type that has 2500 attack or defense. Then you can discard the revealed card, blah blah. That's not really important. What's really important is you use this to reveal your Despian Tragedy. You're thinking, why would you do that? You do that because guess who has 2500 defense that is a fairy? Shadow. That's not how you spell it? 1 L? Oh, double D's. Excuse me, guys. Shadow Construct. So you can send the Shadow Construct to the graveyard. And now you're thinking, why would you send Shadow Construct? Well, when you go Branded Fusion, you send Fallen of Albaz, and you'll probably send the Despian Tragedy, which will get you the Ad Libitum. But what's really important is you can use the Lubellion to discard and fusion summon El Shaddai Winda, which I don't have, so I can't show you how that combo works. But then now you'll have a Winda and a Lubellion on the field, and now your opponent only has 1 special summon, so they have to deal with the Winda right away. And if they have an Imperm or something, chances are you would have used Branded Fusion to get into your Mirror Jade, to get into your Albion, to get into your Branded in Red. You can go Branded in Red to add back your Tragedy and then fuse away your Winda and the Tragedy for another Winda. So the Winda will stay on the board. Again, just spicy tech, you don't have to do it, but it's something to consider when you're making this deck. But I like this build in particular. Very solid, pretty consistent, good plussing, can break boards if you sequence your chains correctly. But that's all for the deck profile here. Let's get into some combos now, shall we? Alright, so for this hand, we didn't open up too well. We have 2 Maxis, 2 Alubers, and the Tri-Brigade Mercurier. But we do have the Aluber, so as long as you can get into Branded Fusion, you can play. So we're going to normal summon the Aluber, activates effects. We're going to add our Branded Fusion. We're going to activate the Branded Fusion into our Lubellion, sending the Despian Tragedy and the Fallen of Albaz. There's a Lubellion. Now we're going to chain link 1, the Lubellion, chain link 2, the Despian Tragedy. So we got to discard for cost. So we have an extra Maxi. We will discard that. Tragedy activates. Tragedy will add us the Ad Libitum. And And then now we're going to summon our Mirror Jade. So we'll go Mirror Jade with Lubellion and Fallen of Albaz. Now at this point we have two interruptions. We have the Mirror Jade Quick Effect Banish, and we have the Tri-Brigade Mercurier, which is a monster negation from anywhere. But what we want to do is set up for some more disruption. So we're going to go Mirror Jade, using its effect to send Albion to banish our very own Aluber. So there goes the Aluber. Why do we do that? Well, for one, now that Mirror Jade is the only monster on our side of the field, we can't get Super Polyed. But we do that so that we can use the Albion to set the Branded in red to make our Guardian Chimera on our opponent's turn. So we'll set we'll set Branded in red. Pass it back to our opponent. Okay, so we'll just throw this out so that our opponent is on a clock. Alright, AI, what you gonna do? Element Saber Nalu. Foolish Burial. Okay, okay. So what you want to do is wait for the first threatening thing to be summoned onto your opponent's field, and then you can just brand it in red. You're gonna draw 3 cards. And he's gonna do nothing, of course. So we're gonna go Branded in red. Let's pretend our opponent did something. We're gonna go Branded in red, targeting the Despian Tragedy. Now we're gonna go into our Guardian Chimera, using the Mirror Jade, the Ad Libitum, and the Despian Tragedy into our Guardian Chimera. Now we're gonna stack our chain links with Chimera 1 because we don't want this to get negated. Ad Libitum 2. This is the second most important effect, targeting the Mirror Jade. And then the Tragedy to get us a search. So since we have Aluber in hand, we're going to use it to search for the Dramaturge. Ad Libitum is going to reborn our Mirror Jade. And we get a pop and a draw 2 with the Guardian Chimera. So we'll pop a back row because we can deal with the monster with the Mirror Jade. So we're going to pop that. And then we're going to go Mirror Jade. Sending the Albion to non-targeting banish one of our opponent's monsters. Albion triggers. And depending on what you need, we already have everything we need in our hand. We have Poly, Branded Fusion. We even have the Aluber. So we'll just take the Branded Lost, I guess. It doesn't really matter at all. And now it's back to our turn. And look how many cards we have now. He uses a drop-off. But anyways, we have a full follow-up in our hand. Power cards. Branded Lost, an extremely good card. It's ultra rare for a reason. But that was a very simple combo if you only have one Branded Fusion. If you have nothing, access to nothing else, you can still make this play. It's a Monster Pop and a non-targeting banish. Plus we have the Mercurier, so that's another interruption. And we have set up for the next turn completely. Look at our hand. So on to the next and final combo here. Alright guys, final combo before the spicy stuff here. So we have Branded Lost. This is actually a really good hand. Ash, Edge Imp, the Aluber, a Poly, doesn't really matter. Branded Lost, which is like a magical meltdown. It makes it so that your opponent cannot respond to your fusion summon. So we'll activate the Branded Lost first. We're going to go Aluber. Aluber into Branded Fusion, of course. Adding the Branded Fusion. We're going to activate the Branded Fusion. We're going to be sending, of course, Fallen of Albaz and Despian Tragedy for Lubellion. There we go. Here's the Lubellion. Alright, now it doesn't matter how we stack our chain links because Branded Lost states that your opponent cannot respond to any fusion summon. So we'll just go Lubellion 1, discarding the Edge Imp chain. Then we'll go Tragedy 2 to add us a Dramaturge not Dramaturge, add us, what's the other one called? I'll let you know in a second. The Ad Libitum, my bad. Here's the Ad Libitum. And the Lubellion will summon the Mirror Jade. So we're gonna go Mirror Jade, sending back Lubellion and Fallen of Albaz for our Mirror Jade. Here we go. Now we're gonna activate the Edgem Chain here. And Brandon lost. Brandon lost is going to add us the Tri-Brigade Mercurier, a hand trap that stops any monster effect as long as we have the Mirror Jet on the field. Edgem Chain is going to add us a Fright for a Patchwork from the deck. So now we're going to activate Fright for a Patchwork, adding a Poly and Edgem Chain from the deck. So you see why the Fright for a Patchwork engine is so good. You get so many pluses from this single card. So we're going to go Mirror Jade effect, sending the Albion to the grave to banish our Aluber. Okay. Now what we do now is we go Polymerization into our Dragostapelia. So we go Mirror Jade and our Ad Libitum. There's our Dragostapelia. Now our Ad Libitum will activate, which will reborn the Mirror Jade. Okay, so what we have now is a live Mirror Jade effect. We have the Dragostapelia monster negate quick effect. We have a Tri-Brigade Mercurier, which is a monster effect negation, and we have an Ash Blossom. So now we're going to end our turn. Albion's going to activate, and we're going to set our Branded in red. And let's see what our opponent does. We have a lot of interruption now. Foolish Burial, we'll just Ash that. I mean, it's just the AI, so you wouldn't Ash that in a real game, but let's pretend that was a significant card. We'll Ash that. Oh god, and the AI, as I said, did the AI just freeze on us? Come on, AI, we're trying to do a combo video here. Okay, so now what we'll do is, if our opponent summoned a monster that had a threatening effect, we can use the Dragostapelia to negate it. But what we'll do here is we'll go Mirror Jade to send the Albion to the grave, to banish, non-targeting banish an opponent's monster, and then we can go Branded in red to target our Ad Libitum. And then we're going to go into our Guardian Chimera play now. Guardian Chimera with the Mirror Jade, the Ad Libitum, and the Edgem Chain. That gets us our Guardian Chimera, which is a pop 1 and draw 2. Okay, so we're going to go Guardian Chimera 1, Ad Libitum Chainlink 2, and we're going to target the Mirror Jade. And then Brand lost. Chains are resolving. Brand lost will probably get us the Albion, so we can draw another card. So there's the Albion. Ad Libitum brings back our Mirror Jade, which is live. And then Guardian Chimera with the draw 2, 2 hand traps, and a pop. And then, look, we still have our Mirror Jade effect that we can use, but our opponent has nothing. Let's assume our opponent had another card. We would use the Mirror Jade to banish it, and that is actually really powerful because, as you can see, we have a lot of cards in hand, we have a lot of cards on field, and Albion will add us whatever we needed. So let's say our board was broken somehow, or we got Dark Hold or something, we can use the Albion to grab us an Aluber or a Branded Fusion, whatever you want. So, or by Aluber, I mean Branded Opening, which gets us to Aluber, or you can grab the Branded Fusion. So we'll just grab the Branded Opening. Back to our turn. And it doesn't really matter what we draw, Droplet. There we go. So that was the final basic combo for this deck. I really like it. It's relatively simple to play, very powerful, and it's very, very good at card economy, as you can see all the cards in our hand. So those are the basic combos. We're going to go into one video with some spicy Shadow tech, and then we'll head on to the live duels. Alright, so I played a bunch of games. There was nothing too spectacular. There's a lot of mirror matches, a lot of jank. When I say jank, I mean stuff like I seen a branded Blue Eyes, branded Red Eyes, branded Thunder Dragon. I was hoping to play against some Sword Soul or some Thunder or something, but everybody's on the Despia stuff. But anyway, we have a decent game here, so we can actually see some back and forth action. We've opened up with the Tragedy, a Maxi, Mercurier, Called By, and branded opening. Not ideal, but we can at least get to Aluber with the branded opening, discarding Tragedy. So let's see what happens. Alright, we fire off the branded opening, discarding the Tragedy, special summoning the Dramaturge, which is a monster negate. Tragedy activates, adding us the Aluber. We go Aluber into branded fusion. Activate the branded fusion. Summon our Lubellion by sending Albaz and the Ad libitum. Now, since we didn't use our Called By, we're going to discard it for the Lubellion effect to get us our Mirror Jade. Don't mind that, I was just memeing. So here's our Mirror Jade. Using Mirror Jade's effect to send the Albion to banish the Aluber so we can get our branded in red. Now we pass it back to our opponents. We have the Guardian Chimera play with the branded in red with a potential pop 2 if we need to. We also have the Tri-Brigade Mercurier in hand. And after the branded in red play, the Mirror Jade will be live again to banish. So let's see what our opponent does. Our opponent leads off with the Harpy's Feather Duster to force us to activate our branded in red early, so we have to activate it now. We activate our branded in red, targeting the Ad libitum, and our opponent chains the Ghost Bell. So this is one of the big choke points of the combo, is if your opponent has something to deal with the branded in red. Whether that be the Ghost Bell, or even worse, the Called By. Because with the Ghost Bell, if we had to, we can at least counter it with the Mercurier. But if they have a Called By, which everybody seems to have, I don't know why that card's at 2, but that will banish the target of your branded in red, causing it to fizzle. So in this case, we're not going to use the Mercurier because our opponent used 2 cards to destroy our 1. They used the Harpy's Feather Duster, and they're going to use the Ghost Bell just to stop our branded in red. So we'll let that go. We still have a Maxi, and we still have the Mercurier in hand. So the chains resolve. Our opponent goes off with the branded opening. We're going to Maxi that. Now you don't have to special summon, but the Maxi puts our opponent on a clock. So he has the Aluber. Tragedy activates, adding him the Ad libitum. Now he normal summons the Aluber and adds the branded Lost. So since he added this, you know he has branded fusion, because you would search branded fusion if you don't have it. That's the priority. And we didn't really want to Tri-Brigade Mercurier this just because of that reason. So if we Mercuriered the Aluber, he doesn't get the branded Lost, but he has the branded fusion anyway. So let that go. So our opponent wisely enters battle phase and swings over our Dramaturge so that we can't stop his Lubellion. The thing with branded Lost is it prevents your opponent from negating activations, and Dramaturge does not negate activations and only negates the effects. So that's a big distinction. And also we still have the Mercurier in our hand just in case we can use it. So he goes branded Lost into branded fusion into his Lubellion. We draw Ash because of the Maxi. He stacks his Chain Links, discarding a Thunder Dragon Dark. Now he's going to fusion summon into the Mirror Jade. We're going to draw another card off of Maxi. Branded Lost gets him his Tri-Brigade Mercurier, so he has a monster negate. He's going to use Mirror Jade to banish our Mirror Jade. We're going to activate our Mirror Jade effect. And he curiously activates the Mercurier. I don't know why you would do this because, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't he have Branded Opening in his graveyard? He does. So this protects your fusion monsters from destruction. So I don't know why he fired that off so quickly, but whatever. So our Mirror Jade has been negated. And his Albion will set him a Branded Red. So he now has the Guardian Chimera play ready to go. But the good thing for us is we also have a Branded Opening, so our fusion monsters are immune to destruction. And we draw a Poly, which isn't ideal. In fact, it sucks. But we do have the Tragedy engraved, which will reset our Branded Fusion. So a Tragedy effect, banish, to set the Branded Fusion. Now we activate our Branded Fusion to go into our Lubellion. Using Lubellion's effect, discarding Poly. He counters with Branded in red for some reason, so we're gonna let that resolve. Adds back the Tragedy. Goes for a huge fusion summon of the Chimera. So our Lubellion resolves its effects. Special summons our Mirror Jade. Okay, now he goes Branded Loss, he goes Guardian Chimera. Despia Tragedy. And this is where he messed up on his chain links. This is why you always do ad libitum as not the last chain. Because if it's the last chain, it can get stopped. Because we have the Tri-Brigade Mercurier, and if we stop that, he does not get the recursion of his Mirror Jade. So never put your ad libitum as the last chain link. Always do Chimera, ad libitum, and then whatever else you have in your chain link, if possible. So now we just go Tri-Brigade Mercurier. Alright, that stops the ad libitum. Tragedy adds him the Alluber. Chimera attempts to pop, but we have the Branded Opening. He does draw two, though, which could be troublesome. And he plays a second Tri-Brigade Mercurier. This guy is a mad lad. So we go Albion to banish his Guardian Chimera. Swing over the Alluber. We pass turn back to our opponents. We're going to have our Albion set the Branded Red, so our Guardian Chimera play is live. And we have the Ash Blossom for his Branded Fusion. He goes Alluber into Branded Fusion. Activates Branded Fusion. And we Ash the Branded Fusion. So obviously in this situation, you never want to Ash the Alluber. You want to hold your Ash as long as possible. Sometimes that backfires because what if your opponent goes Frightfur Patchwork, you don't Ash, and it turns out they're really playing a Frightfur deck. Now you're behind because now they just got a +1. So it's a give and take, but yeah, try to hold on to your Ash if you can until the Branded Fusion, because this hurts a lot. So we Ash the Branded Fusion, and that pretty much ends the game. Our opponent scoops. So again, that was a decent game, a little back and forth. I would have loved to play some Tri-players or Flunder or Sword Soul, some top tier meta stuff. Even some Dinos or ABCs. Never in a million years will anybody play ABC except me. But yeah, so let's go to the final breakdown of the deck. Alright, so we're back with the deck, and what are my thoughts? It's a very fun deck to play. When it goes off, it goes off. There are some pretty glaring choke points. The Branded Fusion getting ashed hurts a hell of a lot. Branded in red, when it gets interrupted with Called By or Ghost Bell or something, it sucks. You sometimes have to pass. You're not really protected from Imperm, so if you make a Lubellion and it gets Imperm, you kind of have to pass unless you have Frightfur Patchwork and you can continue making plays. Imperm on the Alluber sucks if you don't have the Branded Fusion already. So it's not without its faults. Is it as explosive as the other top tier decks? Probably not. I mean, Sword Soul is probably still stronger just because it doesn't lose to Ash. Flunder M-Pen plus Barrier Statue beats basically everything, unless you have Droplet or Dark Ruler. The Adventure Tenyi Synchro Mash Pile, that's probably better because that ends with Boral Savage and Barone and a bunch of other stuff. 9 pillars. So it's not as explosive as those decks. It's, I'd say, fairly consistent. Not the most consistent thing in the world, but still pretty good. Still on the high tier. It's definitely a tier 1.5. It can push tier 1 if you draw well. I'm curious to see how other players, how they mold this to Master Duel's meta. Because in Master Duel, Maxi does nothing against a couple of decks. And Ash is pretty ineffective against decks like Flunder and Sword Soul. So maybe you want to switch these out for Imperms or Ghost Spells or Ghost Ogres. All depends on you. The 2 Polys, I would put this in 100%. There's a lot of mirror matches, and Super Poly can't be responded to. It's an easy way to clear your opponent's board. I'll have to make sure I make these the next time I get 60 gems, because I only have 3, as you can see. But all in all, fun deck to play. Mirror Jade is a hell of a card. Guardian Chimera is a hell of a card. Fight for Patchwork Engine is, in my opinion, pretty solid in this deck. And of course, Branded Fusion, it should have had an animation, but whatever. It's a hell of a card as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. This deck is extremely expensive. Use your gems, buy it, and try it. Thanks, guys.